Every night, billions of people perform a forgotten ritual. Without knowing it may be the key to healing body and mind. What if I told you that the most powerful medicine you will ever take is not found in a bottle, but in the darkness? That the greatest act of healing is not an intervention, but a surrender? We live in an age of eternal, artificial daylight. Our cities never sleep. Our screens glow with relentless blue fire, and our minds race on a track with no finish line. We have become a civilization that is terrified of the dark, afraid of the silence. And we have forgotten a sacred, ancient pact. A pact made not with gods or kings, but with the rhythm of the cosmos itself. Tonight, we journey back to honor that pact. We will walk with Selene, the ancient titan of the moon, and rediscover the ritual she has offered humanity since the dawn of time. This is not a video about sleep hacks or productivity tricks. This is a story about reclaiming the night. It is the story of how sleep becomes medicine. Our story begins in the sterile, fluorescent hum of a hospital corridor. The smell of antiseptic lingers in the air, mingling with the faint metallic scent of equipment. Here we meet Maya, a nurse. Her life is a testament to compassion, but it is also a war fought against time itself. She works in rotating shifts, a chaotic dance of days bleeding into nights and nights into days. She is a healer who has forgotten how to heal herself. Burnout is a quiet shadow that follows her home, clinging to her scrubs, whispering exhaustion into her every waking thought. Her sleep is a shallow, fractured thing, a brief, troubled respite before the next alarm, the next emergency, the next demand on her spirit. Have you ever lain in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling your thoughts run faster than your heartbeat, unable to quiet the mind? That is Maya's every night. She feels untethered, a ship lost in a starless sea, her internal compass spinning wildly. And yet, her struggle is not hers alone. For Maya, and for so many of us, the enemy has a name: circadian disruption. Deep within our brains, in a tiny region called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, beats an ancient clock. This is our circadian rhythm, the internal conductor of a grand biological orchestra. It dictates when we feel alert, when we feel hungry, and when we feel the gentle, insistent pull of sleep. Once this clock was simple to follow. For millennia, it was set by the most reliable timekeepers in existence: the rising sun and the setting moon. But our modern world has declared war on this natural order. The artificial light from our screens, our homes, our cities sends a constant, confusing signal to our brains. It is always day. This signal travels directly to our pineal gland, suppressing the release of melatonin, the hormone of darkness, the gentle chemical whisper that tells our body it is time to rest. Think about the last time you scrolled your phone late at night. Did you feel the heaviness of sleep, or did your mind resist, alert and restless? Science confirms what our bodies already know. A 2020 study published in the journal Sleep Health revealed what shift workers like Maya feel in their bones. Chronic circadian disruption is linked not just to fatigue, but to a higher risk of metabolic disorders, heart disease, and mood imbalances. It is a silent epidemic born from our defiance of the night. But transformation often begins in the quietest moments. Maya's journey did not start with a scientific journal. It began on a quiet drive home after a grueling 16-hour shift. The city lights blurred past, and the hum of the tires on asphalt became a meditation of fatigue. As she drove, exhausted, she glanced up and saw it. A full moon, serene and impossibly bright, hanging in the velvet sky. It was Selene in her fullest glory. Have you ever paused to notice the moon, as if it were speaking directly to you? In that moment, something shifted. She realized she wasn't just fighting her schedule. She was fighting the entire rhythm of the planet. She was trying to live a life without tides, without seasons, without the sacred pause between exhale and inhale. The first step was simple, yet profound. Her journey back began with a single deliberate act. She bought the thickest blackout curtains she could find, transforming her bedroom into a sanctuary of absolute darkness, a cave of rest even when the sun was high. She began to ritualize her exposure to light. In the mornings, before a day's shift, she would spend 10 minutes outside, letting the natural sunlight hit her face, a clear signal to her internal clock to begin the day. Before a night shift, she would mimic the sunset, dimming the lights in her home hours before she left, wearing blue light blocking glasses. Gradually, the war with time became a dialogue. She was no longer at war with time. Instead, she was making a pact with it. She was learning to flow with the tides of her own body, guided by the silent wisdom of the moon. Her sleep, once shallow and broken, began to deepen. The shadow of burnout began to recede, and slowly, she remembered what it felt like to be whole, to rest, to be in tune with herself. Maya was learning that the first step to healing others is to honor the natural healer within. Our second story unfolds in the hushed, pressurized halls of a university library. The faint scent of old paper and polished wood mingles with the quiet hum of fluorescent lights overhead. We find Leo, a student, surrounded by mountains of books. He is brilliant, driven, but his mind feels like a cluttered attic, each thought stacked precariously atop another. He reads pages, but the words evaporate. He attends lectures, but the concepts slip through his fingers. Have you ever tried to focus while exhaustion gnaws at the edges of your mind, only to realize the effort itself becomes a distraction? Leo survives on caffeine and anxiety, pulling all-nighters as a badge of honor, believing that sacrificing sleep is the price of success. Yet, the more he sacrifices, the more the cost becomes clear. His memory is failing him, and a persistent fog of irritability clouds his every interaction. He is winning the battle for more hours in the day, but losing the war for clarity in his mind. Sound familiar? How many times have we told ourselves, "I'll sleep later," only to regret it when a morning light reveals our scattered thoughts? And here lies the paradox, one only recently illuminated by science. Leo believes wakefulness is for learning and sleep is wasted time. The truth is precisely the opposite. Sleep is not a passive state of shutdown. It is an active, highly organized, and essential period of mental curation. During the day, our brain is a frantic marketplace of information, taking in experiences, facts, and emotions. But when night falls, the doors to the market close, and the librarians of the mind get to work. Imagine a library at midnight, the clerks sorting, cataloging, and archiving every story from the day. This is the quiet miracle that happens in your own brain while you sleep. This process is most profound during our two main stages of sleep. During deep, slow-wave sleep, our brain engages in a process of synaptic pruning. It's like a master gardener tending to the connections between our neurons, strengthening the important ones and snipping away the weak, irrelevant ones. This is how we separate signal from noise. Then, during rapid eye movement, or REM sleep, the stage associated with vivid dreams, the brain consolidates these important memories. It replays the day's events, weaving new information into the existing tapestry of knowledge. A 2019 study from the University of California, Berkeley, showed that a full night's sleep can increase learning capacity by up to 40%. The researchers found that sleep spindles, bursts of brain activity during non-REM sleep, were critical for transferring memories from the short-term hippocampus to the long-term storage of the prefrontal cortex. Without sleep, this delicate transfer fails. The information remains trapped in temporary storage, soon to be overwritten. Can you recall a time when you studied tirelessly, only to forget the material the next day? That is the cost of ignoring this natural rhythm. And sleep is not only for knowledge, it is for emotional balance. Researchers at the University of Rochester discovered what is now called the glymphatic system. During sleep, the channels between our brain cells expand, allowing cerebrospinal fluid to flow through and wash away metabolic waste products, including beta-amyloid proteins linked to Alzheimer's disease. Think of it as a cleansing tide that washes the brain clean each night. Neglect sleep, and this tide recedes. Toxins build up, contributing to brain fog, poor focus, and emotional volatility. The amygdala, our brain's emotional center, becomes hyperactive without sleep, leading to anxiety and irritability, the very forces that plague Leo. How often do we blame our stress on the workload, when really, our brains are screaming for rest? But clarity can come in a single, quiet moment. Leo's quest began not in a textbook, but in a moment of desperate insight after failing a key exam he had stayed up all night to study for. He decided to try an experiment. For 1 week, he would treat sleep not as a luxury, but as a non-negotiable part of his study schedule. 8 full hours every night. The first few days were difficult. His mind, accustomed to racing, resisted the stillness. Yet he persisted. By the end of the week, the change was undeniable. The fog began to lift. He could recall lecture details with ease. He felt calmer, more centered. He realized that the all-nighter was not a tool for success, but an act of cognitive self-sabotage. In that quiet realization, he discovered a new mastery. He was not just a student of his subjects anymore. He had become a student of his own mind, learning that the most profound lessons are written in the quiet ink of dreams. And perhaps, like Leo, we too can reclaim our nights, finding in sleep not a pause, but a gateway to clarity, insight, and balance. We now travel to the vibrant, chaotic heart of a family home. The scent of breakfast lingers in the air, a symphony of spilled cereal, warm toast, and half-empty sippy cups. Here we meet Sarah, a mother of 2 young children. Her days are a beautiful, exhausting symphony of laughter, cries, meals, and endless tasks. She gives everything she has to her family, her love a boundless ocean. But by the time the children are finally asleep, she finds herself depleted, adrift in that same ocean. She collapses onto the sofa, scrolling listlessly through her phone, seeking a moment of escape, but finding only a shallow distraction. Have you ever reached for your phone to relax, only to feel more restless afterward? When she finally drags herself to bed, her body is tired, but her mind is wired. She lies awake for hours, replaying the day, planning the next, worrying. Her sleep, when it comes, is light and easily broken. She feels like she's pouring from an empty cup. Sarah's struggle is the struggle of the modern caregiver, the person so focused on the needs of others that they forget the architecture of their own well-being. She doesn't need more hours in the day. She needs a bridge to carry her from the high-alert, active state of her sympathetic nervous system, the fight-or-flight mode of parenting, to the calm, restorative state of her parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode required for deep sleep. How often do we push ourselves past the point of fatigue, thinking it is love or dedication, when our bodies are quietly begging for reprieve? This transition doesn't happen by accident. It must be woven intentionally every single evening. It requires a ritual. A ritual is not just a routine. A routine is something you do. A ritual is something you inhabit. It is an act imbued with meaning, a sacred space you create in time. For Sarah, her salvation came in the form of a ritual so simple it was radical. She called it her 3 sacred knots, 3 small acts to tie up the loose ends of the day and prepare the vessel of her body for the journey of sleep. The first knot she called the severing. 30 minutes before her desired bedtime, she would plug her phone into charge across the room. This physical act was a powerful symbol. She was severing the digital cord, disconnecting from the endless stream of information, comparison, and stimulation. This single act created a psychological boundary, signaling to her brain that the day's labor was done. It protected her mind from the sleep-disrupting blue light and the cortisol-spiking nature of social media. Have you ever noticed how just putting your phone down can feel like releasing a weight from your shoulders? The second knot was the breath. After severing the cord, she would sit in a dimly lit room for just 3 minutes. No agenda, no goal other than to follow her breath. She performed a simple box breathing exercise. Inhale for a count of 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. This was not just a spiritual practice. It was a physiological command. Slow, controlled breathing is one of the fastest ways to activate the vagus nerve, the superhighway of the parasympathetic nervous system. It sends a direct message to the body: you are safe. The storm has passed. You can rest. In these moments, Sarah would sometimes let her mind wander to small micro-narratives. The way her son's hand fit perfectly in hers during the morning rush, the burst of laughter when her daughter tripped over her own shoelaces, the fleeting smell of coffee mingling with crayons on the kitchen counter. These little memories, she realized, were more nourishing than the endless scrolling she had relied on. They were tiny islands of calm in a sea of chaos. The third and final knot was the offering. Beside her bed, she kept a small, simple notebook. Before turning out the light, she would write down one single thing from the day for which she was grateful. It could be as small as a child's laugh or a moment of sunshine. This practice, validated by numerous studies in positive psychology, shifted the brain's focus from threat detection to appreciation. It was an offering of gratitude to the day that had passed, a final, peaceful thought to carry into the dream world. How often do we end the day reflecting on what went right, instead of dwelling on what didn't? These 3 knots took no more than 35 minutes in total, yet they completely rewove the fabric of her evenings. The ritual became her bridge. It was her sacred, non-negotiable time to pour back in her own cup. Sarah learned that motherhood did not require her to be a martyr to exhaustion. It required her to be a weaver of stillness, demonstrating to her children that rest is not a weakness, but the source of all strength. And in these quiet moments, Sarah discovered a profound truth. The small acts of intentional presence, of measured breath, and of mindful gratitude, when repeated consistently, could transform not just her nights, but her days. Our final story takes place in a minimalist, high-rise apartment overlooking a city that never sleeps. The glow of neon and streetlights filters through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long, restless shadows across polished floors. This is David's domain. He is a successful executive, a master of strategy, control, and execution. He commands boardrooms, closes deals, and builds empires. Yet there is one territory he cannot conquer: his own mind at 3 a.m. Every night, he lies in bed, his body still, but his thoughts running a marathon. He strategizes about tomorrow's meetings, analyzes past mistakes, and constructs elaborate to-do lists. He treats sleep like any other business objective, something to be achieved through force of will. Have you ever lain awake, planning, revising, thinking, only to realize that your mind refuses to obey your commands? David tries to shut down his brain, to command it to be quiet, but his mind is a fortress, and he is both the prisoner and the guard. David's plight is the paradox of control. The harder he tries to force sleep, the more it eludes him. This is because sleep is not an act of doing, it is an act of letting go. It is a state of surrender. You cannot command the gates of slumber to open. You must approach them without armor, lay down your weapons of control, and allow yourself to be welcomed in. For a man like David, whose entire identity is built on control, this is a terrifying proposition. How often do we confuse effort with mastery, when in truth mastery often comes from release? His guide on this journey was not a person, but a voice, a calm, steady voice from a guided relaxation audio. He was skeptical at first. It felt passive, unproductive, almost a surrender to weakness. But out of desperation, he put on his headphones and closed his eyes. The voice did not command him to sleep. It simply invited him to notice. It guided his attention gently, from the tips of his toes to the crown of his head. It asked him to notice the tension in his jaw, in his shoulders, in his hands, the physical manifestations of his mental battles, and simply allow them to be there, and then to release them. In the early days, David would sometimes drift into micro-narratives, a flash of memory from his childhood, the smell of his father's old briefcase, the echo of a teacher's advice, a quiet memory of laughter shared with a colleague. These fleeting moments were not distractions. They were bridges gentle pauses that allowed his mind to shift from relentless doing to gentle noticing. Have you noticed how a simple memory can suddenly release a knot of tension you didn't know you were holding? This practice is known as a body scan, a foundational technique in mindfulness. Its power lies in shifting attention from the chaotic, narrative-driven world of thoughts to the direct, tangible sensations of the body. Recent neuroscience using fMRI scans has shown that practices like this quiet the activity in the default mode network, the part of the brain responsible for mind-wandering, rumination, and self-referential thought, the very network that kept David awake. It also reduces the physiological symptoms of stress, lowering heart rate and blood pressure. As the voice guided him, it used a powerful metaphor. It asked him to imagine Selene's moonlight, soft and silver, pouring in through the window. It asked him to visualize this light as a gentle, liquid warmth slowly filling his body. It was not a harsh, analytical light, but a soft, accepting glow. With each breath, the light spread, loosening the knots of tension he had been holding for years. For the first time, David was not trying to fight his thoughts. He was simply observing them as clouds passing in front of the moon, without judgment, without engagement. And then, something remarkable happened. He let go. He surrendered control. He stopped being the guardian of the gate and allowed himself to pass through it. He did not fall asleep by force. He was received by sleep. The room, once a battlefield of schedules, emails, and mental loops, became a sanctuary of surrender. David, the commander, learned the most powerful lesson of his life. True strength is not found in the will to control everything, but in the wisdom to know what must be surrendered. How often do we measure our strength by what we dominate, when the real mastery lies in the art of letting go? In the following weeks, David's nights transformed. The tension in his body eased, his mind became clearer, and his days flowed with more focus and ease. His victories in the boardroom were now mirrored by victories within. The serene victory of a mind at peace, the quiet triumph of sleep embraced rather than conquered. And in that embrace, he found not weakness, but resilience, not passivity, but power. We have walked with the nurse, the student, the mother, and the executive. We have seen their struggles and their triumphs. Maya learned to honor her cycles. Leo learned to trust the science of rest. Sarah learned to weave a ritual of stillness. And David learned the power of surrender. They are not characters in a story. They are archetypes. They are you. They are us. Have you ever noticed how your own nights mirror theirs? How exhaustion, racing thoughts, or shallow sleep have quietly invaded your life, unnoticed, until it becomes too heavy to ignore. Each of them faced the modern monster of sleeplessness and discovered an ancient medicine within. And now, it is your turn. The journey turns to you. The knowledge has been shared, the path illuminated. It is time for your own heroic trial. I call it the 7 Nights Challenge. It is simple, yet profound. For the next 7 nights, I invite you to become both scientist and subject of your own life. Choose just one practice from our stories. Perhaps you will make a pact with the moon like Maya, managing your exposure to light and dark to signal to your body when it is time to rest. Can you imagine how a few minutes of sunlight in the morning or a blackout room at night could transform the rhythm of your days? Perhaps you will become a scribe like Leo, making 8 hours of sleep a non-negotiable priority to heal your mind. Perhaps you will become a weaver like Sarah, creating your own 3-step ritual to bridge the gap between your day and your night. Or perhaps, like David, you will learn to surrender, guided by a voice that invites you into stillness, noticing the body, the breath, the gentle passing of thoughts. Micronarratives will be your allies in this experiment. Each night, note a small detail: the softness of a pillow, the quiet of your bedroom, the warmth of moonlight spilling through the window. Have you ever observed how a tiny, simple moment can shift your entire evening? These small observations are not trivial. They're the breadcrumbs that lead you back to rest, the markers of progress on your personal journey. Choose one, just one, and commit to it for 7 nights. Keep a small journal. Note how you feel in the morning. Note your energy. Note your mood. What changes do you notice after the first night? The third? The seventh? This is not about perfection. It is about practice, about curiosity, about returning night after night to the quiet medicine that has always been within reach. This is your personal quest to reclaim the night. By the seventh dawn, you may find something remarkable, a sense of calm you thought was lost, clarity in your mind, resilience in your body, and a quiet joy that comes from honoring yourself. Are you ready to take the first step tonight? The wisdom of Selene is not a secret. It is written across the night sky. It is encoded in our very DNA. It whispers to us that rest is not empty time. It is a sacred, generative space where our bodies heal, our minds consolidate, and our spirits are renewed. Sleep is not the end of the day. It is the quiet preparation for living the next one with intention, clarity, and grace. It is not an escape from life, but a deep return to ourselves. Consider Maya, who learned to honor the natural rhythms of light and dark. Could a simple act, drawing the curtains, feeling the morning sun on your face, dimming lights before bed, shift the rhythm of your own life? Or Leo, who trusted the science of sleep and made it a non-negotiable part of his growth? What might change if you protected 8 hours of rest as fiercely as any task on your to-do list? Reflect on Sarah, who wove stillness into her evenings with her 3 sacred knots. Which small ritual could you create tonight that signals to your body and mind that the day is done? And David, who surrendered control, learning that strength lies in letting go. Where in your life could you release the need to control and simply allow yourself to rest? Your pact with the night does not require a grand gesture. It begins with a single, conscious choice. One deliberate act, perhaps just one, repeated night after night. Will you let the moonlight guide you? Will you honor the architecture of your rest? Will you step back from the rush and claim your right to recover, to dream, to be whole again? The journey we have taken tonight, through stories of struggle and triumph, is now yours to walk. Let it inform your own practice, whether you adopt Maya's attentiveness to light, Leo's commitment to hours of rest, Sarah's ritualized stillness, or David's surrender to the present moment. Each step, each night, is an invitation to reclaim the sacredness of sleep. Your ritual begins now, a whispered promise to yourself, a nod to the rhythms that have guided life for millennia. Selene is waiting, and when you finally lie down, may you feel the gentle hand of night guiding you, wrapping you in quiet, and teaching you again that rest is a gift you give to yourself.